everyone. I'm Matt Lucas, and today we are going to do a 15-minute media and marketing talk with William Luu, who is the preeminent photographer in Australia. So I am going to get him on here right now. So William has worked at a lot of different shows. He's worked at Rebellion, CM to Sydney. He recently had the Rogue show, and there he is. So I was just quickly introducing you, but why don't you give a quick self-introduction? I know you've photographed and worked for Rebellion, Roots. How did you get into things? Just a quick intro for yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Will from Australia. I'm a fight photographer slash fight creative. I've been involved in the sport for about 10 years now. I think I fell into it because back then I was training myself as a fighter, eventually got injured, which led me to the path of taking up a camera and then working from the scenes. Eventually that led from me working from gym to gym and eventually getting onto the big promotions, and 10 years on, man, still loving it.
Yeah, so you had a lot of experience with media and marketing, especially in Australia. How do Australians tend to market themselves?
My background is in photography, marketing, design, advertising. So I think it goes hand in hand with what I'm doing now. Well, let's start with social media. I think most people will be using social media like Facebook, Instagram. The main thing is how people post themselves is you must post consistently and develop a persona and brand around your profile. And as your profile grows, your fan base will grow as well. People, they're investing time and energy into you watching your journey grow. So you got to do your best to respond to your fans. I mean, look at John Wayne Parr, one of the most prolific fighters on social media in fight sports, and he still responds to every single one of his comments. And as your fan base grows, as you can say, Matt, it's how sponsorship opportunities can grow as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is about building that connection between people. John Wayne Parr, I think, has done a great job marketing himself just by engaging with the base audience all the time. And then he shows up consistently with his content as well. Do you feel like you have done that with your own career?
Yeah, a little bit. I think everybody has their own way of marketing. I'll just use an example. Trainer Gay on Instagram. I mean, agree or disagree with his training methods, but he's got a profile being a joker, being brutal in his videos, and that attracts certain fighters to work with him rather than someone else, because that's the brand, that's the persona he made for himself. And for myself, I started off as a fight photographer because when I first started out, like I said, I was still fighting back then as the fight photographer. Eventually, over the years, I grew to, making posters, making artwork, making podcasts, become more of an all-round creative. And that's the kind of person I'm trying to become these days.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I look at a photo from, Australian promotion, I expect to see your watermark on it, the WLF fight photography. And I feel like you've done some really great things. I really like the recent Roots photos you took. There was a lot of backstage stuff, just a lot more texture to sort of the experience.
For sure, man. Like I said, everyone's got their own tone and voice. And I think for me, it's about being at the forefront of people's minds. So during our first lockdown in Australia last year, I went almost 1 year with no work, no events, no gym shoots. So that's when I had more time for myself. So I made a photo series called In Focus Series, where I interviewed fighters, trainers, gym owners. So I stayed relevant during those 6 months to 12 months, making a lot of free content, expecting nothing in return. And so when gyms started opening up again, when shows started happening, I was on the forefront of people's minds, being booked for almost every week. And I think it's important to stay relevant and not just fall flat. It's like during lockdowns when fighters would post videos of them training, promoters are looking for them. They know they're still active. So they're the first person that they'll contact.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple quick notes. It's nice to see Lucy Payne on here, who was very active in Australia. and is now in the UK. Hopefully, maybe sometime she can get back to Australia. Also, our friends over at Ultra Instinct Fights, Bangkok promotion. But what do you think are areas that Australian fighters specifically, and maybe more generally, are doing right, and what are things that they can improve on?
I think out of all fight sports I'm involved in, Muay Thai seems to be the most humble, but that could also work against them because they're not well at presenting themselves. And I think an area where they can improve on is when you think of social media, you think of Facebook, Instagram. I'm leaving out Twitter, TikTok, because that's not really big these days in Australia. I know you love your TikTok, Matt.
Yeah, I'm a TikTok fan. It's actually, I started doing it more because all the kids here at Fairtex do it. The demographic tends to shy a little younger than Instagram. So it's sort of the next platform coming up. There's a girl, Abidet or Dream. She has 250,000 followers on TikTok. Stamp, meanwhile, has 120,000 followers. Abidet is 19, Stamp is 23 or something. So it really shows that TikTok is more geared towards younger crowd, but it's also the platform itself has basically been integrated into Instagram through Reels. So a lot of it's like editing and understanding transitions. But, I also feel like just in general, people need to be using these if they're going to be, trying to promote themselves.
I think you're doing really well, Matt. You're 25 and you're still using TikTok, staying strong.
Yeah, exactly. I'm an old man at 25, still making my TikToks.
But I think if I was to give one strong piece of advice for fighters up and coming this season is think outside the box. Like I said, you have your Facebook, Instagram, and even TikTok these days, but you got to start thinking outside the box and build your own websites, make your own YouTube videos in technique breakdowns, fight companions, or fight breakdowns of your own fights, jumping on a podcast. If you need help making that, why don't you partner up with a creative, offer them free training in exchange for content? And one thing I see people doing wrong is using the same piece of content. Let's say you take a picture of yourself after a gym session topless. You're using that same piece of content, chasing personal training, chasing fights, chasing sponsorships. You have to think about, in general marketing, you need to define your audience. Like I've seen many fighters use the same thing across all platforms. Like with personal training, think about the people you're targeting. Think about the people who you're looking for. Most likely it's like someone training as a hobby, looking for fun and fitness. You want to break down what you offer, what to expect, be inclusive to all levels, and how to find you. With sponsors, don't do it in a lazy, generic way. Like I think you said in a podcast, Matt, sponsorship, it's not a charity. It's a working relationship between two parties.
Absolutely.
So every sponsor will have different business. So you need to cater to each one, even if it means making some sort of sponsorship proposal document to let them know what they're going to get for their investment. And when you're looking for fights, that's when you can post up your cool highlights, post up your training videos, post up your knockout reels, because people want to see exciting fights. Promoters want to see what you bring to the table. So you got to know what you're targeting each time.
Yeah, I think that's a great, sort of piece of information or opinion. People need to have target audiences, and what are they trying to specifically do? And then also, I think you really hit on something with people just using the same picture or content over and over. Like you need to develop yourself as a brand and something different, and a lot of that comes from a lot of practice, just being okay on these platforms, whether it's TikTok or Facebook or Instagram, and just showing up regularly.
And I think now more than ever with the lockdown, people can't actually be in gyms or be at events. This is when you continue to grow your audience, grow your fan base, and like I said, be at the forefront of people's minds. So when things do open up, you're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of Australians, I know, the country is partially locked down now. This is a great opportunity to build an online audience, to do, tutorial videos, which always do well. You know, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You know, people still need to learn how to block. You know, they still need to learn how to jab and cross and body kick. And you can just put your own flavor on it, or you know, change things slightly. But what role do you think photographers as de facto marketers for the sports play?
I think people like myself, we create content not because we enjoy it, but because we want to also share it with the sport and share it with the community to help grow it. I think a good example is what Helen Tran's doing with her She Fight projects, because she's doing it because she's passionate about that project. She's giving a platform for the female fighters to raise awareness, also build their own brand. And I think content creators, we're always here to help fighters, help gyms and promotions grow, as long as there's a working relationship between both of them. Like, for example, I've got many fighters hit me up asking for photos to use for t-shirts. And oftentimes I'll just give it to them for free because it's helping them grow, and in exchange, you know, get a nice t-shirt.
Yeah, oh, Toby Smith.
You know?
Yeah, it's good.
And like, it's the old saying, free work isn't good and good work isn't free. You always have to work hard to produce quality content, because at the end of the day, it's your brand. And I want to share a personal favorite story of mine with our good friend Andrew Parnham from PTJ Muay Thai. It's a story about the PTJ Muay Thai gym and the Twins Specials sponsorship deal. So I was doing some promo work at the gym because Andy brings me in to do some updates every now and then. I took a pretty cool picture of Sing Payak doing pads with Twins gloves, Twins shorts, and Twins pads. So he was using that picture across social media and websites, and eventually people from Twins saw it. So they reached out to Andrew, but also Andrew's doing a great job promoting the PTJ gym on social, being branded as like a Thai style gym in Australia. And I think it was the perfect combination of showcasing a good brand in a good authentic gym. And that's what led to the sponsorship between Twins and PTJ, and the first Twins outlet store in Australia.
Oh, that's really successful. I mean, that's, you know, in some ways it's lucky, but in other ways it's a lot of work. You know, there's the work that you put in as a photographer. There's the work, you know, Andrew has been doing, just staying relevant on the platforms all the time. So, but it's really, really good. You know, that's a big thing for Parnham and for everyone.
Well, there's luck involved, but because he's done the homework, he's done the prep work, I've done the prep work in what we do. Eventually, these opportunities will find yourself. And also, if Andy's watching, I'm still waiting for my signed pair of gloves.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to harass him about that. But do you have any advice for getting into the sport, or potentially starting off as a creative in the sport?
My advice for new creatives would be, don't take attention away from the fighters. Don't take attention away from the sport. You're part of the behind the scenes process. You're there to help capture the sport and let it grow. If you're there to, you know, get the likes, get the attention, then it's not a sport for you. People are paying tickets to see the fighters, not seeing your head pop up and down in a way.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I know it's a little bit of a problem in America. A lot of people doing things for clout, not necessarily to sort of grow the sport. I feel like
it shows. You can see it.
You do the legwork and the attention and the, you know, the money and everything else comes after. But you sort of have to build the sport and generally be passionate about it.
For sure.
So just wrapping things up, I just wanted to take 15 minutes. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Not much, but if I can borrow some of your time, Matt, I'd love to know your thoughts. You know, being on social media a lot, what kind of social content attracts you these days? Because you see an influx of training videos, fight highlights. What do you think really stands out these days?
Yeah, for me, I am not interested in pad work videos. I'm not interested in fight highlights. I've seen a lot of fights. You know, I still watch fights very regularly, obviously, but it's just not super interesting to me. I'm more interested in technical information and in-depth content that I haven't seen before. Fights, I've seen a lot, and I can see whenever I want. But like, finding out about how Som Surat does her training, or Tiffany Lamb, what working with Don Miller is like out of Super Fight. That's things I haven't seen. Pinky does a good YouTube series where he rants about things. That is not something I've seen a trainer do before, and so I always pay attention to it. I feel like, at least for me, because I'm in Thailand and get inundated with so many fights and so much fighting, that is not something that appeals to me primarily. I like it, but that is not the information I'm going for. I don't feel it has as much depth as some of this other content that I feel doesn't show up enough.
I agree, man. I agree. Yeah. One more thing I want to bring up. You mentioned this on the Combat Chat podcast with Hugh and Shane. You were saying you have to learn to give without expectation and play the long game. And I think that's so true. And if I can add to that, it's give without expectation unless there's some sort of agreement or contract involved. Just be genuine in your approach.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. There's nothing wrong with being like, oh, I will help you if you help me, as long as that's clear from the get-go. I feel like it's disingenuous and hazardous to both parties to be like, oh yeah, okay, Will, yeah, I'll do this for you, but you have to help me down the road, and it just like it corrodes a relationship, and people want to work with people they like, not necessarily people that they feel obligated or owed things to.
I mean, like if you're an up-and-coming fight brand called Matt Lucas Fightwear, and you give me free training gear, even though I'm not really required to post anything, if you're a good person, you would just post a few posts every now and then saying how good it is. Yeah. But of course, in the background, I'll use WL fight gear because it's better.
Of course, okay.
Yeah, but if there was a written agreement or contract from Matt Lucas Fightwear, there's a clear expectation of what I'm going to do for you and what you're going to do for me. I think there's a difference there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times these things need to be made more clear as well. If I was a brand doing something like that, I would be very clear, like, hey, these are my expectations. This is what I'd like to do. I want you to do X, Y, and Z, and you get A, B, and C.
Yeah, so, and just be conscious. Like, if I'm wearing your brand, I won't wear the WL Fight brand on videos.
Yeah. Simple stuff, but it's moments like these we're slowly trying to educate people and hopefully build careers, grow the sport and do more of what we love. I want to thank you again, William, for coming on the show today, and hopefully my goal this year is to get over to Australia and maybe to a Rebellion show. So fingers crossed. I'm going to work hard at it.
Well, Matt, thanks for your time. Thanks for thanks for the opportunity. I'll just quickly like to thank all my friends, the fighters, gyms, and promoters out there, helping me support the whole fight scene. And also a special shout out to my gyms in Melbourne, Australian Combat Sports Academy, Strike Studio, William Street Gym, and Unite Muay Thai. We're in lockdown number 4 now, so hopefully when things are all good, we'll go back to normal.
Yeah, hopefully, no doubt. All right, thank you so much, Will, and thank you, Dan McGowan, for the compliment on my hair. It does look good. Hopefully, sometime Dan can grow his hair the same. Is your hair sort of bleached blonde too? You got some frosty tips there.
It was, man. I mean, during lockdown, I went full blonde because no one could see me, and that was a good look for a few months. But then I got a lot of crap from Sai Naji, so I just have black now.
He's #1 hater. But hopefully we'll see everyone soon. Thank you again for the time, Will.
Awesome, man. Thank you, Matt.
See ya.
Please like, comment, subscribe, and share.